the last lecture, we saw how we could create a custom character. So instead of just using the basic princess model, that you could add other models into your project. And in this case, we actually added 3 other models so that we had the Princess Warrior one we've used before, a Brutius one, a Jane, and a Funky Monkey one. Now, those values that we've got listed in the registered spawnable prefabs can be picked and set in this player prefab index value down at the bottom. And then when you press connect, what it does is it sets this value of 3 to grab the 3rd element in this spawnable prefabs lists and puts it into the player prefab, which then instantiates your particular player you want. What you may want to do now is to have different people play with different characters. So instead of, as it will currently work, everybody's going to get the same character, before we press the host button or the connect button, we want to be able to set which character we get. Now this is actually quite simple. We just have to put a few new GUI buttons on the screen and make sure that we set this player prefab index, which automatically updates what prefab is sitting in this field here. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so we need to do that in our custom network script, which is just here. And I'll do that right at the top. So just underneath our value for player prefab index is where we will put the new code for the buttons. So what this code is doing is it's creating a selection grid of buttons, and each of those buttons will have a different label. So we're going to have Princess, Brutius, Jane, and Funky. Now the list of these ones here need to be the same order as you've got in the spawnable prefabs array, which is just here. So you must have Princess, Brutius, Jane, and Funky. Otherwise, your player will select the button and get a different character, and you want them to align. Okay, so back into here. All this is a very simple on GUI from the old on GUI sort of system, which is what your network HUD is currently using. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so that you can see. And inside the on GUI, we're going to test if the network is not active, so that we haven't already connected. Then we're able to select which character we want to play with. So this presents the buttons on the screen using these strings here. The 2 specifies how many columns of buttons that you want, and this is the size of the buttons. And then the value that gets returned based on which button that you select goes into here. So this will get a value of 0, 1, 2, or 3. Now those values need to be related to the index values of the characters in that spawnable preference array. So when you press the Princess button, it will give you a value of 0. But the Princess prefab in the spawnable prefab array is actually in position 1. And so we're going to add a 1 to that to increase it. So remember, let me just go back to that array again, is that this spawn point that we've been using, it's in position 0 of the array. So when we access the players, we need to add a 1 to all of them for the button values so that we can access them. All right, so with that change made, just save that, go back to Unity and press play, and you'll see that the buttons now come up just up here. Okay, so these are our buttons, and we can select the different characters that we want to spawn with. So if we want to spawn with Brutius, you can click Brutius and then start up your networked game, and you've got Brutius. Stop that, we could select Jane and press that, and now you've got that character. Okay, let's build this out so that we've got 2 versions and have a look how each player can be working with a different character. So I'll start up the host with Brutius, and we will connect here on the client with Funky. And now you can see you've got 2 different characters for each of the different players.